Hello, hello, everyone. This is the release engineering meeting for November 11th. This is a meeting that is recorded and available on the internet, so please be mindful of what you say, what you do. Please be sure to adhere to the Kubernetes Code of Conduct and be awesome people. So we're going to get started with, I don't know, we don't have an agenda. So I don't know if there are any open topics that we want to go over before we maybe walk the board real quick.
Again, noted last week, and then Sasha realized that we have multiple release notes generators and mentioned, hey, should we maybe consolidate these? And I am definitely a huge plus one on that. I don't know if there's anything else to chat about that today.
Yeah, maybe we can go over that a little. I know there are at least three. Uh, I know there's the rel notes one that runs in Inago. There's the release notes package that has some library doodads, as well as the command tool itself, um, and the Kubernetes SIGs release notes project. So Sasha, you may have the most context out of everyone on the call about this. Do you want to walk us through some of the stuff that you know?
Yes. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the first thing I saw is that the Golang-based tool seems to be newer. It's also the only tool I maintained in the past, but I also saw that it's maybe not feature complete in comparison with the Bash script. This could be one problem.
Yeah, so I'm going to be honest, I know very little about it outside of the fact that it runs and it hasn't given me problems to date. But I know that over the last few cycles, we've discovered issues in the way that we parse release notes, how release notes get recognized, and I think that y'all have done a great job in cleaning them up. So I would say maybe we can look at it together. Hold on.
One of the things sort of hidden implicitly in what Sasha said is there's only one that's maintained, really.
Yeah, the Golang-based. Yeah.
I'm trying to sanitize my screen, but I'm going to share it in a second. Right. Uh, okay. All right. Everyone can see that okay? Sweet. All right, so as usual, the long usage paragraph. Okay, so let's see what it does. It scans git log for merges, merge pulls, collects, displays release notes based on release note star labels, and blah, 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 blah. Okay, so as always, we source our bash libraries, the common and the gitlib.sh. Okay, some functions for extracting the PR title. It's all right. Okay, so it's looking for all PRs, going through, doing some replacements, pulling out the author and content and echoing the content. Huh. PRs by label, creating a downloads table. Do we use that? Yes, we do use that. Why is this in the release note script? Oh my God. All right.
Probably because when the patch releases or the pre-release notifications go out, it builds basically the email that
Yeah.
includes those, but that is redundant.
Yeah. So it might not be redundant actually, because we still would slash release, and where does this end up? Create body, downloads table, PR notes.
That may be the only place that it is actually, but it's not redundant. It's just in an unusual place in the workflow.
Yeah. So yeah, we're definitely, this definitely seems to be something we're using. So where do we really use it? So somewhere in Inago. It'd be nice if these were prepended with release notes. These
Look for
function.
generate underscore release underscore notes.
Yeah. Right, and here we go. All right, so if you've seen any of our announcements before on Kubernetes Announce or Kubernetes Dev, this is essentially the script that we're using to generate those. So it's taking, yeah, this is something that we could pull out. I think it's on our list.
So ideally, I guess we would want to use the Go implementation that Sasha and others are maintaining, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So we should use.
So I guess what we need to find out is what features are we missing in there, and see if we can bring them in. And I guess the switch then for Anago to just call the other thing the new thing would not be terribly hard.
Yeah, no, that should be fine.
The only thing I don't remember is we said we have 3 implementations. I don't know what the third one is. I cannot remember that.
Right, so we have the rel notes one here. We have command release
I'm
notes.
pulling, while Steven's going through and y'all are chatting, I'm going through the things that I'm aware of in the release notes and dropping links to the various things.
Right, so we have this one as well. It's kubernetes.io, kates.io /release command release notes main.go. And then there's also.
And where's that used? Or is it even?
That's used, right? Sasha?
Yeah, it's used for the manually generation of the release notes and also for the website.
Okay, and then we also have Kubernetes SIGs release notes, and this is mostly the website content, right?
This is the website, yeah.
Okay, cool. So, whoop.
So my idea initially was to bring in some automatism, and we have for the Golang based tool a command line option which is called minor to latest. So it tries to find the latest Kubernetes minor version, which could be 1.15 or 1.16,
Okay.
and then tries to find the correct latest version, which is either a release branch or the master.
Okay, cool. Yeah,
and we could do the same for the patch releases as well.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good. Looks like we're doing. All right, fetch rebase, and I lost it. All right, so adding new notes, removing any of the previous change logs. Okay, so this is only happening on release star branches, just making sure that so if you look at one of the release star branches, you'll see, so you can see all of these change logs here from master, right? But if you look at, right, if you look at the release 117 branch, you'll only see the changelog and changelog 117, right? So changelog just links out to the relevant changelogs, and I guess these would be broken on, or it links back to master. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, so this is the table that you saw being generated. We should probably put the 256 in here too, but this table is already long enough as it is. Oh no, Slack is open. Cool. All right. All right. So who is interested in taking that?
I am happy to look at it. I know that somewhere Mike gave me a year ago or so some run through about the different tools and what I used. I cannot find it right now. But anyway, I can only look at this after KubeCon. So
Yeah, I want to say that I have no expectation of anyone doing any work until after KubeCon. There there are going to be no deadlines until after KubeCon for me. So, but yeah, that's a great one. Timmy said he dropped some stuff in the notes about it.
Yeah, so just links to the 4 or 5 different places where release notey things are happening.
Okay.
Maybe a very first thing that would be sort of a straightforward, easy thing for anybody who wanted to do it is
an issue.
Just to run the two, the Golang CLI and the Bash one, compare the outputs, and for little tiny differences, start making some little patches. Like this doesn't have to be a massive change, but just to do a little bit of cleaning, and then to say like, yeah, they're similar enough that we're comfortable attempting to put the Golang one instead of the Bash one in the call for Anago, and
I think they do
slowly
two
moving
different
forward.
things though.
that would have been my approach, like just testing what the different things do and documenting that, and then based on that we can see which ones we want to maybe replace, which features we would need to do so, and that kind of business. Not really thinking about code changes yet, because I have no idea about the different tools. And
yeah, they definitely do different things today.
Yeah.
It's not even like I think they do, like they do different things, but it's not logical the breakout of them. But we could iteratively start moving little things around and making them look a lot more similar, and do that in small enough little pieces to where the review is as simple, can merge at any time, and eventually we see parity enough to give it a try, putting the Golang one in Anago. And maybe we never even get there because Krell
destroys Anago. One day. That's
even if that's the eventual outcome, it's still sort of it builds a whole little path that shows like equivalency or sufficiency, because we may not need to be equivalent.
That's true. That's very true. We might find a better way of doing the notification emails too. So
I'm a big fan of aiming for sufficiency. Like that's a whole lot more realistic in the short term.
Yeah, I mean, sufficiency is also leagues better than what we've been doing in release engineering over the past years. So, yeah, finding the better tool is I think is a later goal for us. Okay, so given that Sasha and Daniel are taking point on the Go migrations in general, Hannes, can you sync up with them and just all three of you work together on doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. All right. Next up, I see Dims is on the call. Dims, do you have anything you wanted to chat about today?
Just listening in, Stephen.
Okay. All right. So why don't we go into the board and see what's going on? I think it's been a little bit since we've done like a full sweep of this. So let's have some fun. All right. Can everyone see my screen? Okay. All right. Is that a yes? Anybody? Okay, cool. All right. So just usually what we'll do is just grab everything from release engineering, area release engineering label, and look for all of the, look in all of the repos. I think I probably want to extend this label to be a global label because there are enough things that we touch across multiple repos that I haven't been able to tag as release engineering that are release engineering related. All right. So this, oh. This is kind of us. Come on, GitHub project board. And just a note for people who are on the call who work on the release engineering stuff, regardless of what repo you're working in, whether it's SIG release or the release repo or somewhere else, please try to make sure that the issues are tagged as area release engineering and milestoned when appropriate. We can work on figuring out priority together, but I just want to make sure that at least they're easily greppable. While we're doing stuff like this, right? That's us. So Dims, I think you've been working on some test cleanup stuff. I'm not sure if you want to talk about that. I'm just moving through this board.
Hi. So the problem statement there was how do we get rid of /cluster and how do we increase the signal from real clusters, real in double quotes, and not cubeb based clusters. So as part of that effort, we ended up investing some time in cluster API provider for GCE and cluster API provider for AWS. And essentially we stood up CI jobs using those two that are in release informing now. And they've been pretty green. So quite happy how that turned out so far. So that gives us an opportunity to test Kubernetes latest from master and cluster API from master and cluster API provider for the specific cloud provider and all sorts of stuff. So we can set up various combinations. There are 6 jobs currently running, which are periodic. We can go do a few more combinatorial stuff and get them running. So this is like the first step. Once we run this for at least one release, then we can think about making them blocking.
Okay.
Yes. Was there a question?
Oh no, I said okay. I just
Okay.
said okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So the ideal situation would be to figure out how we can replace all the things from KubeUp, but then we have to take baby steps to get there. The next step would be, I think we had started a process of trying to figure out how many toggles are there in our CI definitions to see if all of them can be tweaked through the cluster API, kubeadm, and on to see if there is 80-20 kind of jobs that we can switch over
Right.
quite easily, and that would be the next step to do. When we have some downtime, once the features deadline is passed, and think we can do those kinds of things.
Yeah. So the tests that Dims are referring to, so I think the kappa conformance stable, the capg conformance stable, which other ones?
Yeah, those are the two that are in this board.
Okay.
But if you go to the cluster lifecycle stuff, you will see 3 jobs each.
Is it the Cappy board?
Yeah, AWS and GCP. Those are the 2 ones.
All right. So conformance master, conformance stable, case master.
Yeah.
And then the same for capg.
Yep.
So I'm not sure if it merged actually, but there was, someone is not on mute, by the way, and playing music.
Background talking. Could be Irvi. Aini.
All right, muted that. All right. Yes, okay. So I actually had questions about the conformance tests. There were a set that are, what's the easiest way to find these? That could be it. Yeah, there were a few that were, thanks. That's a loaded search. I think that we're landing on the release, the release blocking boards that were weirdly configured, not weirdly configured, but yeah, these. So they were initially named like GCE 115 dev or something like that. I'm curious about your thoughts on like the usefulness of running the conformance test against one of the stable version markers. Because what I did,
Are you asking me, Steven?
yes, yeah.
Okay, just making sure.
Yeah, so I believe some of these were set to the markers that are like the Kate's master marker or stable beta, Kate's stable, Kate's beta, stable 1, stable 2, stable 3. I'm actually like, yeah, I'm curious about like the usefulness of looking at any of the stable markers.
I think So by default, it uses 116, and then I had to do some special stuff to run it against master. So those two are at least covered. But if we want to add CI jobs, it would be not variations of the CI job and put them on release informing for that specific release branch. That would be easy to do. I can walk somebody through that.
So it's actually already done. So this is a conformance latest job, right? Conformance latest job uses the CI latest marker. So there's a fork per release. So one fork per release is true, and then also for the replacements, it will rewrite CI latest to CI latest, whatever the version is, right? So you can see that the corresponding jobs are here. What I was curious about was previously, I think I had removed it in a recent PR actually. So this is. Okay, CI conformance latest to the internet.
You got to use cs.kates.io.
Yes, I do quite frequently. But what I wanted was the PR history.
Okay.
I use it all the time. I'm a big proponent of Hound. Yeah, so this here. So it was one of the manual release bump required jobs. So basically, it was something that we were copying over, creating new ones for every time we cut a release branch. And I don't really see if it's wrong, we can put it back. We can put them back, but I don't really see the usefulness of checking out the release stable dash version markers, since we're already running against the latest, right? And they're periodic jobs.
So there's two things here. One is, what is the version of the binaries that are running? The other one is, what is the version of the tests that are running? That's sometimes the reason why you see, which is, especially in the job that I have, you can opt for running late 116 end-to-end test against 117 master kind of thing.
Right. So that's when you.
I don't know which
double
variation
extract.
this one.
Yeah. So yeah, that's when you do the double extract. This one assumes that This one assumes that you're just using whatever the most recent stable release of 112 is, right? So this marker only gets written when we do a release.
Okay.
Right. So it's not super useful to run those periodically, which is why I remove them. I was curious if you felt differently.
I agree. If it's for branches, then it's more useful. There's not much point for running the same thing over and over again.
Okay.
I think going back to what Dim said about the version of the test and the version of the code, if we don't have this run sometimes, it's possible for a PR to come in that changes behavior and the testing of that behavior. And on head, things remain self-consistent, but it's now different compared to what had represented conformance previously, as of that tag, the one that you're not seeing the value in. Does that make sense?
Yes, I see what you mean.
We're shifting the goalpost potentially. This allows us.
I think we're moving it. Yeah, I think we're moving it backwards or forwards, depending on how you look at it. By using everything latest, then we're getting faster results on what might have.
But we can deceive ourselves and say that we have conformance, but we've changed the definition of conformance for end users, and they're no longer self-conformant.
So we need. So what's the way that Okay. Okay. This is I think this is a longer discussion. Yeah, because
this is something, but you are right. I think this is something that isn't really well articulated in terms of a test plan or philosophy of what we're intending to do. So the value can be unclear, and then depending on if or how we're managing all of these tags correctly, not relative to a documented plan, we may not be ensuring the things that we want to ensure. Like we don't have documented invariants here, and we don't control for them.
Yeah, and the hardest part about these tests is nobody looks at the results, and
Yeah, so that was something I wanted to bring up too. Right now, these tests are flagged for Kubernetes release team. There should be like a conformance owner for GCE for the various providers. So we need to figure that out, because basically, like, this test will go in latest. That's cool. Latest runs. It fails. It fails on our board. Right. So it's landing on master blocking, conformance all, and conformance GCE. The GCE test, to be honest, I'm not sure who's watching those at any one time. So if you look at the branch specific jobs, these don't even get alerted on. I think that could be config forker related. Oh, okay. The 117 does get alerted on, and that's it seems. Yeah.
I think we need to do an inventory and bring in the conformance subproject.
Yeah.
And basically see what is working, what's not working, what is automated bumps and what are manual bumps, that kind of stuff. So
this at the very least, I know that this is controlled by config forker, right? The stuff that concerns me is not necessarily conformance related. It's let's go here. So I broke up the generated tests, the generated dashboards, and so initially, people who are watching CI Signal, I lumped a bunch of dashboards or tabs into the sig release job config errors dashboard, and then moved some of the ones that are specifically generated configs over to the sig release generated one. Right, you can see that there are. So let's look at the config errors one first, right? So some of these have to do with kubectl skew. You can see that pretty much all of them are the skew tests. The rest of them are Bazel related, and I think I have a fix for that to move them off this board. But you can see that most of the rest of them are kubectl skew tests, and you can see that they're targeting 14.13, 13.14, 13.12, 12.13, right? Like the way that we define the tests, like how does that even work? Does that mean it's a version of, so this is the part I got confused at, and I was like, let me just merge what I have right now, and I'll come back to this, because if you look at one of these tests, right, even so if you look at the test name, right, the test name is stable 2, stable 1, right? Blah, 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 stable 2, stable 1, right? It's landing on the 112.113 tab, right? Which is obviously no longer correct, right? So right now our latest is latest is 118, beta is 117, stable 1 is 116, stable 2, 115, stable 3, 114, right? So that means that this is at the very least named wrong. If you look at this test, so people were asking in the release CI Signal channel how they can help out with this. The answer is I don't really understand it just yet. So if someone does want to take a look at it, feel free. So there's like a double extract, right? And the double extract will mean I'm going to use one version of Kubernetes to test some parameter against a different version. Right, so they're testing skew for kubectl using, so an older version of, it might be an older or newer version of kubectl against an older or newer version of the server components for Kubernetes, right? So I don't know, I don't know what the appropriate order is. Like, does this mean I'm checking out the stable 1 version of the Kubernetes server components and then testing against the stable 2 version of the kubectl Like, I don't know. So if someone is interested in checking that out, because essentially what we need to do is we need to either decide we're going to use these version markers or destroy them and use the and explicitly use the version. So 116, 117, right? That's part of the reason that this the skew and the skew tests is happening, right? So like these are all tests that are probably running on newer branches that are labeled as two deprecated versions, right? So yeah, and then outside of that, there's also these generated ones, which I'm sure a decent chunk of these have no owners, and they're generated off of experiments. Test config is one of it. What is the name of that? Okay, the name is escaping me at the moment. But it should be like generated something, generate tests, generate tests.py. There we go. So one of the things that was happening before is if a job had a notation that it was release blocking or release informing, and it would basically find the version and then drop it on that dashboard, right? If it was not in either of these categories, it would land in sig release version -all, right? So I switched that to dash generated so that we could get rid of all of the version -all boards, right? And then at this point, it's a matter of fixing I think fixing the stuff that lives in testconfig.yaml, which is, yeah, there's a lot of wacky stuff going on that I don't fully understand. So if there is someone who is interested in investigating this, that would be super appreciated. Yeah, cool. Is anybody interested?
Some work with the config for generating the tests, I guess a few weeks ago when I was first starting on CI Signal, so I'd be happy to look into that.
Okay, cool. Cool. Thank you.
I'm trying to find it right now, but your question on like when it's a dash Kate stable 2 dash stable 1 or those different patterns, Aaron had written a document somewhere, and I thought it was either in test info or community, and I am not finding it off the top of my head, but it is documented what that ordering does.
This one?
It's not that one.
Oh no.
There's one that's like that specifically goes into if you're looking at a test case or you see this, and I'm wondering if it's maybe under some of the triage docs.
I feel like this is in sig release.
Oh, maybe that's why I'm not finding it. I bet you're right.
It could be in the CI signal area.
I almost think we moved that. Yep.
Create job versions. Ding, ding, ding.
That's the one.
Okay. So let's read it together, class. Okay, so from to. Okay. Option A is to trust the job name. I'm not sure that I feel we can do that anymore. Upgrade cluster from, okay, upgraded to new version, and then the old version tests run. Cluster, upgrade cluster new is upgraded to new version of the tests run. Upgrade master, upgraded to new version, nodes left at old version tests run. Like that. Okay.
If you really slow down and pause and parse the English very carefully, like I feel like this still ends up being better described by the code behind it.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, and that is, that place no longer exists. Also gone. Okay. So you see some links that we need to clean up as well. This is generally useful stuff. This shouldn't just be in CI's handbook or adjacent to CI's handbook. What was the jobs naming convention? Yeah, I'm not sure anyone has, if we were to do a show of hands, how many people have seen this doc? I'm not sure many hands would go up. If a test job ends, name ends with upgrade cluster, it means we first upgrade the cluster and then run the old test suite. If it's upgrade cluster new, we first upgrade the cluster and run the new test suite. If it's upgrade master, we keep the nodes of we upgrade the masters, keep the nodes of the old version and run the old test suite. Okay, all right. Okay. So I think at the very least, we can try to make sure that the links for these docs are a bit more discoverable. Tim, would you mind copying those links and dropping them in the notes as well?
I'm just getting the last one right now. Is what on the E2E tests.md, what was the subsection that you were on?
Test jobs naming convention.
Got it. I'm going to give a link specifically to that part.
Okay.
Since it's a big document.
All right. So any questions on this stuff? I know that we may have created more questions than than answers, but
well, one other thing I think to reiterate, you asked like, should we, or what should we use for labels, or should we maybe remove these stable 1, stable 2? I think we've kind of just demonstrated and talked through how poorly this is understood. That
yeah,
when you see stable 1 and stable 3, which scenario is this in which order, and it's spread across 3 different documents, and outside of test infra and CI signal, probably not many people know it. And this goes back to what Dim said, like nobody looks at these tests. Even when you notice it, you're like, well, what scenario, what's going on here? This is very much a hurdle, and I think we should move to something that's more clearly explicit about what is under test. I get that having these markers the way they are means you just sort of can fork load a test, and having changed the backend indirection pointer, it just keeps going. But it's caused a lot of bugs, and it causes a hurdle for people who would debug the bugs.
And yeah, and I mean, we've seen this over this cycle, at least this cycle.
Almost every cycle it's happened.
Yeah, because there's a point that you don't know at which the version markers mean something different, right? So that is when the new branch is cut, and assuming the release branch jobs happen soon afterwards, right? As they should. That's when the markers essentially slide over. which means everything that has been stable 1, 2, 3, beta, master, what have you, against that marker, it moves a version, right? So you're no longer kind of, yeah, like you said, it becomes at a point that you don't really know what is under test for a certain period of time. So yeah, I think it might be valuable to look at stripping these markers in 118. I don't want to add anything to the plate for 117 at this point. But yeah, I think we've been moving towards some of that. I think the sticky bits will be in the generated jobs, because they'll have to be explicitly generated for versions instead of using those markers.
Computers are good at string matching and substitutions. I mean, this is where automation shines.
I don't disagree, but I feel like I would like a set of humans looking over this and just validating that all is good. I have seen issues with the config forker before. I've seen issues with the job generation scripts as well. That's not to say that we can't just go fix those issues. Like we will eventually fix those issues, but I want to make sure that we also have like a human touch on top of that stuff. Because like I didn't even know that this the script is where all of the dashboard jobs were landing on the dashboards. My words are so bad today. So some of this had to be tweaked, and then also like the stuff that did not have owners attached to it were either migrated to a place that had owners or dropped from our boards. So there's still like more work to do on the generated and the job config errors stuff, but I think there's a slightly better understanding, and at least the ones that are landing in the release branch jobs config are actually targeted against a specific version instead of a ominous version marker, non-version version marker. Cool. All right. So do we still want to do the board, or do we want to talk about something else before we go?
Does anybody have things that they want to bring up?
Do we just blow your mind?
I feel like every one of these meetings is going to scare people away.
Yeah, they're like, "Oh, come
so
hang
much
out and release
complexity.
engineering." We have no idea what we're doing.
There's so much technical debt here, and like we're puzzling through it. So if nothing else, for the people who watch this and are maybe intimidated by it, don't be scared. You know as much about this as we do practically, and we're just trying to work together to figure it out and improve it. So anybody is welcome in that front. Steven, do you want to just glance over the board and
Sure.
see if there's anything critical
Egregious
that we could get somebody
out.
looking at? Or yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Here we are. Cool. All right. So for 117, okay. So block releases on non-synthetic clusters, that has been in progress, right? That's some of the stuff that Dims is working on, some of the stuff that George has been touching. Determine image building process for release tools. Now, this might go away since we're starting to shove a lot more stuff into.
Do you want to share your screen again?
Oh yes, that would probably be helpful. Okay, cool. So block releases on non-synthetic clusters, that's the work that Dims was talking about earlier. The determine image building process for release tools. So this is a discussion that we're having about tightening up some of the images some of the container images that we build for for the release tool specific stuff. I think since we've had that discussion, you know, we still have, we just got rid of the Go Dep one, which I'm pretty sure no one was using. I looked around using Hound to see if there were any locations where we're using that Go Dep one. So we've got the Kate's Cloud Builder. Kate's Cloud Builder is basically the image that we use for any of the steps that we run through GCP, or most of the steps that we run through GCP. So if you're interested in seeing that stuff, it is GCP and build release stage, right? So cloudbuild.yaml. Right, so we're using the Git Cloud Builder and the Git Cloud Builder again, but also the Kate's Cloud Builder to do. Basically, this is an image that has all the things that you need to build Kubernetes, as well as any of the tools that we have on the periphery to actually to stage and release Kubernetes. Right, so you can check that image out. Kate's Cloud images, Kate's Cloud Builder, and then dockerfile.yaml. So this is kitchen sink in it right now. I've just tossed in everything that looks like we needed, but this is built on top. It's now built on top of the kubectl image, and kubectl was recently bumped to 113.4, so that this has been bumped as well. I do want to pare this down when we get a chance. If possible, it'd be great if we pared down kubectl as well, so that we get to take advantage of a smaller image size. But you can see that this also has a cloud build attached to it. And the cloud build attached to it is it's using the Docker cloud builder, and it's just doing 2 tags, a git tag and a latest tag. So basically, every time a file is touched within the images directory and it merges, the cloud builder will rebuild itself, right? And it rebuilds itself by submitting this this template to GCP. I did a code-based tour if you're on the call for that. We can link it in the notes again that walk through the PRs and all the things that go into building this. So I think that, you know, this issue becomes a little less necessary outside of a decent chunk of the work is done already. Outside of paring down some of the images, we also have images in build, debs, RPMs, right? So the debs one is really just, it's doing a multi-stage build, building the deb builder tool, and then packaging that up, copying that in to a smaller container. And we're kind of doing the same for, or not, because the RPMs one is just a script that you run, right? So Fedora container, and we're tossing in that build script. So yeah, so not too much to do there. These are kind of fairly small. I had touched them recently. But I would say that the Kate's Cloud Builder is the one that we need to clean up. These will also get consolidated at some point. I think I'm planning to merge the deb and RPM tools eventually. I want to say soon, but I'm going to be realistic and say eventually. So it'll be something like kubepackage and then kubepackage debs, kubepackage RPMs, and we'll do something similar to what we're doing for the Krell, right? So building a toolbox, but this will be a very small one that only does debs and RPMs. So this is something that people can pick up if they want to. We'll make it a module so people can go get it and you know, use it outside of having to basically import all of the release tools that we use. So we have to merge the paths between you know, between the deb and RPM tools and the way they work today. Tim and I have been poking at that over the last few release cycles, but there's still some work to do. So yeah, coming soon. What else do we have? This is, I wonder if this is, so the branch management improvements list, I've been working through some PRs for this. I think a lot more on this list is done than just 2 out of 10. I'll add some updates to that closer to KubeCon. This one is,
I think that
feel like we fixed
might
it.
be fixed.
Yeah.
We can check the details on that. It might be that some stuff is not fixed yet, but like the main thing that we picked up the wrong file, basically that's fixed.
Okay, cool. So Hannes, can you follow up on this one?
Yes, I can.
Cool. Thank you. Umbrella issue for a job that signs artifacts and uploads them to GCS bucket. So that was opened by DIMS, and I think, wow, yeah, we've moved forward on a decent bunch of this stuff. We have owners for this stuff. I want to link the PR before I check that box.
Over in working group Kate's infra, has there been any more discussion? Like, is the plan to use the Google KMS, the cloud KMS, or is it still sort of brainstormy phase?
That's ours to decide. We have to test that out ourselves. We have access to do it now, though. So like the Kate's infra, Kate's release staging test. I forget the name of our projects every day. I think it's Kate's staging release test, right? Kate's staging release test and Kate's release test prod or prod test. Both of those we have access to, so we're like KMS admins there. The bucket stuff is also solved by the scripts that are in Kate's infra. Directory structure, Tim, you and I need to figure out. This is something that's open as well. Trusted cluster, we use the test infra trusted cluster for our release jobs, the staging jobs, but I think that we might, there was talk about maybe us having our own cluster since our credentials are a little bit more sensitive than some of the stuff that's running through there. So we should have that discussion and figure out like what the maintenance burden for us overall will be. And more stuff that some of this, needing a way to trigger the jobs, like this has been happening as a result of the image builder, GCB builder tool that lives in test infra. But I just noticed we are at time, and so we'll stop here. Anyone who is on the release team call, that is starting now. Thank you everyone for joining, for questions and answers and all that good stuff. I will see you at KubeCon, hopefully, and if not, I will see you in probably a month, right? Later.
Maybe it could become Amsterdam.
Yeah. All right, later.